afternoon. I am just so excited for this next conversation because while it can sometimes feel like it is 2023, how can we still be having so many firsts? Well, when you are an eternal optimist as I am, and understand that the arc is long, every time we celebrate another first, it's a sign that we're on the move, that we're still marching forward, and that we are still making progress. So, let me introduce to you a woman who first made history as the youngest and first woman to be elected Prince George's County State's Attorney, who went on to become the first woman elected county executive in Maryland's history, and who is now a candidate for the U.S. Senate in Maryland, County Executive Angela Alsobrooks. And the first woman and the first person of color to ever represent Delaware in Congress, now running for the open U.S. Senate seat in Delaware, Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester. And so, as you get seated, Congresswoman, I want to actually start with you. Okay. Because like so many eventual Emily's List candidates, you never thought that you would actually run for office. And since we are always looking in every room that we're in for the next first-time candidate, I was thinking that maybe you could share a little bit about your path to running for Congress and how you got here.
Wow. Well, first of all, I have to start by saying how awesome it is to be on this stage. Like, really, can we give it up for Angela or Maya? And to Emily's List. I don't even think Nick, who is with me, we weren't even scheduled to be here because the House was maybe in session, then the House wasn't in session. And so I am so proud to be here, particularly to say thank you. As a person who had never run for anything in my life before I decided to run in 2016, Emily's List is the reason I'm here. One of the main reasons that I am here. No, you need to give yourselves more of a round of applause. I mean, first of all is God, right? And thank you so much to Emily's List. And as I think about the journey, years ago I used to say this thing: see it, believe it, say it, do it. See it, believe it, say it, do it. I think as a young person, maybe I could see myself running for office. And I remember one of the first real forays besides politics with my dad, who was a city councilman and council president. I went to a town hall meeting in Delaware in 1988 as a grad student, and I had my 2-year-old son on my hip. I didn't know it at the time, but I was pregnant with my daughter, Alyssa. And after the town hall meeting, talking to the congressman, who is currently our senior senator, Tom Carper, he told me they had internships. And I applied for that internship, which then went on to become a caseworker and helping people in his office, ultimately served in his cabinet as Deputy Secretary of Health and Social Services, where I got to see the impact of health disparities firsthand and so many issues regarding health and wellness in our state, and then became the Secretary of Labor in his cabinet, and then worked for our first woman governor. But all through that journey, I remember being that intern standing on the steps with him in 1988 thinking, hey, maybe someday I could be the congressperson from Delaware. But for many years, I did not believe it was possible. I could see it, but I could not believe it. And I found a journal entry when I decided to run from the year 2000 where I wrote all the reasons why not me. All the reasons. I'm in a very difficult marriage. 20 years I had been in that marriage with ups and downs. I don't have money. I don't have a Rolodex of lawyers. I've never been in a debate. And I wrote all these reasons. See it, believe it. But I had to believe it. And in I guess it was 2006, I fell in love, got married a second time, like a Beyonce song, I just fell in love. I quit my job. I moved to Shanghai, China for 5 years with this incredible, beautiful, chocolatey black man named Charles Rochester, love of my life, smart, sexy, funny, incredibly humble, who was running things in China. And I lived there, wrote a book with other women about reinventing your life. And we came back to the States in 2012, and in 2014, Charles went on a business trip, played a game of basketball before his meetings, ruptured his Achilles tendon, and at 52, blood clots went to his heart and lungs, and he passed away. The love of my life. And as a person of faith, because I know Angela is too, I thought I was going to lose my faith. I was mad, I was sad, and for that whole year, just getting up in the morning was a feat. And it was almost on the anniversary of Charles's passing that I saw a dad in the supermarket in front of me with 3 kids put back grapes because they were $9. And I realized, snap out of it, girl. Charles put everything in order before he died. I had a home. I had mental health care. I had family. But a lot of people in my state of Delaware were struggling. They were calling my city of Wilmington, Murder Town, USA. Sarah McBride, who is in the audience, she knows. So gun violence was important to us. And I decided to run, having never run for anything. See it, believe it. I had to say it out loud. And once I said it, I could get the help from Emily's List. Because I'd never ran a campaign before. I didn't know what to do. So literally, it was a journey of over 30 years to get me to this space. But it took Emily's List to help me figure out how to hire people. It took Emily's List to help me figure out how to raise money. And we know for black women, it's 3 times harder. Emily's List. That's why I'm standing up on this stage. See it, believe it, say it, we did it.
And we are all the better for you having believed it, and we're so proud of you. We are with you every step of the way, and we are so happy to see where you are today. And so, Madam County Executive, I want to ask you a similar question, because you also already had a very successful career as an attorney and a public servant before you stepped up to put your name on the ballot for the first time. What made you decide to get into your first race, and how did that set you on the course that led you to this moment?
All right, thank you so much, and I want to say good afternoon to everyone, and I agree with the Congresswoman that I'm so honored to be on this stage with both of you today, and to all of the women and men in the audience. I often call them super bad women, and there are a lot of super bad women in Emily's List, and I want to thank you all so very much for your support. When I talk about how I came to this moment, I reflect on my own family's history. My family is not originally from Maryland, where I was born and raised. They're from a place called Seneca, South Carolina. It was my mother's family that came to Maryland in 1956 following the murder of my great-grandfather by a sheriff's deputy. His name was J.C. James. He was a person who was epileptic, so he often had seizures. And one day he had a seizure in public, and he was accused of being drunk in public. There was a white man who stood up for him and said, "He is not drunk. We know him well. His name is J.C. James." And this embarrassed the sheriff's deputy, who said to my great-grandfather, "I'll come back and get you." Well, on July 4th, 1956, as he's walking along that road, the sheriff's deputy did come upon him, shot him first at his feet, and then shot him in his abdomen, and he died there on the side of the road. Now, our family went to the courthouse a week later, and of course it was determined that no crime had been committed. And in fact, the family was told that if they didn't leave, they'd kill the whole family. So within a week's time, my mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and several other family members came north to a place called Fairmont Heights, which is in Prince George's County, Maryland, where I've lived. Now, the person who conveyed most of that history to me was my great-grandmother. She was a super bad woman. Her name was Maybelle James. She had been born in 1897, and I was really privileged to grow up with her. In fact, she lived until my first year in law school. Now, Maybelle conveyed many lessons to me, but chief among those lessons is the one that I am applying today. When she told me that when you don't like something, even as she conveyed this story, it was never with bitterness. She said, if you don't like it, you should go farther and you should do better. And I was raised with that. Two incredible parents, very working class parents. My mother retired in 2016 as a receptionist. My father, who is to this day the single most intelligent person I have ever met, was a newspaper distributor. Together, my parents really did emphasize education for me and for my sister. So I took that, went to Duke University, graduated and came back to law school, and always knew I would work in public service. So I was blessed to be hired first in 1997 as the first ever full-time domestic violence prosecutor to work in the state's attorney's office, continued there, and was inspired to run for office initially in 2010 when I looked out at the world. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and at the time believed that she was growing up in a community that was less safe than the one I had grown up in. And I was discussing this with a friend who said, well, you know what? And I was doing what Maybelle would have said not to do. I was complaining about it. And he said, well, you know what? Unless you plan to change it, let's never discuss it again. I ran for office in 2010. I did exactly as I said. During the 2 terms that I served as state's attorney in Prince George's, we saw a 50% cut in violence. Also created a very important unit to investigate official misconduct and police misconduct, and, by the way, replicated our vice president's program Back on Track with her help for nonviolent first-time drug offenders. But I have to tell you, even that was not enough. Anyone who spent even a day in a courthouse sees the misery in our families who have not had the kind of investment in mental health care, addictions care, education, affordable housing, so many issues, and I decided that rather than reacting to this pain, I would run for county executive and make the kind of investments that I thought would allow our families to come out of the pain. I was elected as county executive in 2018, have really been fortunate to get to work and to do the things I promised. We have broken ground in the last 3 years on 10 new schools in our county for the benefit of our children. We have opened the first of its kind mental health care and addictions care facility to treat our loved ones with the dignity that they deserve rather than incarcerating them. We have worked as well to make more than $1 billion, close to $2 billion in investments, economic growth, creating jobs and income for families who have been left behind. So I started, and I can tell you that at every venture, I have heard Maybelle's words in my ear. If there is something in your environment that you don't like, we don't complain about it. We don't sit on the sidelines. We get in there and we do something about it. And I have tried to do that. I am so honored to now run for U.S. Senate to continue the kind of work that I've done not only in Prince George's, but for Marylanders, and to do for all Americans who want the same things that we want for our families: a safe environment, health care when you are sick, you want economic opportunity for your families, and a sound education for your children.
Maybelle. Maybelle. We're going to all remember Maybelle's words. So now you're both poised, again, to make history as candidates for the U.S. Senate, but I know neither of you would be content to simply make history, and that you're both in this because you want to make a difference. So let's talk a little bit about that. And Angela, I'm going to stay with you for a minute. As we look to the Senate, and there are so many problems that need solving. Throughout your career, and you've talked a little bit about it, but you've sought out innovative solutions to complex problems. What can you tell us about that and the approach that you really are hoping to be able to bring to this Senate?
So thank you. You know, my father often told me something that I think is wise. He said, he calls me little fella because he wanted sons and he got 2 daughters. But he said, you know, little fella, the problem with people, it's true, and he still calls me that to this day. He said, the problem with people is they know more than they understand. And I think this is true. What I learned about addiction and learned about mental health care is this: we are incarcerating in this country a large number of people. In my county, we saw 70%, if you can believe this, of the people we arrested every day and took to the Department of Corrections were intoxicated when they arrived. We also found that 1/3 of all the people we were arresting were on psychotropic medications, meaning that we incarcerate and recycle people who are suffering from addiction and mental illness and housing them in places where they can't be healed. I decided to reallocate $20 million away from a public safety training facility. We still have the facility, and reallocated it after putting the initiative on the ballot, and we opened instead the first of its kind mental health care and addictions care facility in our county to be able to treat people. We're expanding health care for youth, many of whom we're seeing across the country are just really suffering right now, but made that kind of investment to be able to heal people rather than to constantly incarcerate them. On schools, Prince George's has the second oldest school facilities in the state. Over 40% of our schools are 60 years old or older. And what I believe is kids who sit in classrooms where it's falling down all around them, we say something about that child's potential. So I was able, along with our school superintendent, to come up with an innovative approach, not used anyplace else in Maryland or across the country, a public-private partnership to build schools more quickly. And we, over the last 3 years, as I've mentioned, have broken ground on 10 new schools. We opened the doors to 6 of them this year after 2.5 years. We next year are breaking ground on an additional 8 schools. So during the course of my time over 6 years as county executive, we will have broken ground on 18 new schools in a 6-year period in order to teach our children in facilities that respect their dignity. And these are just some of the approaches we've been able to use, but it is understanding the people you serve and knowing what they need.
Amen. Congresswoman, your time in Congress has been eventful, to say the least. You served through the pandemic, through January 6th, and good Lord, through the current dysfunction, if we're all watching the news. How have those experiences shaped you and your vision for what the Senate can accomplish with more democratic, pro-choice women, which is what we're all here to do?
Wow. You know, it's interesting as you were saying all of the different things that we've been through. And Johanna, also, I want to recognize she was the one who applauded for the schools because, as many of you know, she was at one point our National Teacher of the Year.
Yes.
So, and truly a fierce advocate in the House as we battle against efforts to take food out of the mouths of babes. Johanna on the Agriculture Committee. For me, I came in 2016. I came in with the former president, he who shall not be named. And as was said, we literally dealt with shutdowns, we dealt with a pandemic, we felt the collective trauma of the murder of George Floyd and a racial reckoning in our country. But I also hearken back to what I have learned and what I have experienced when I was elected in 2016. I'll never forget, I knew that that moment was going to be special because Delaware had never elected a woman to Congress. We had never elected a person of color to Congress. I wanted it to be a special, historic moment. And so I said to my sisters, I'm one of 2 girls, 3 girls, and so I'm the oldest, and I said, I want to wear something special. I want to do something special, so I thought maybe I will wear what Shirley Chisholm wore, the first black woman to Congress. We Googled it. It was 1970s hideous. I was like, I can't wear that. And instead, my sister found a document that our great-great-great-grandfather, who was from Georgia, signed to enable him to have the right to vote. And we took the document and we turned it into a scarf that I carried on the day that I was sworn in. It is called the Returns of Qualified Voters and Reconstruction Oath from 1867. And on the bottom is the X that he marked because as a former slave, he could not write. And I carried this with me when I was sworn in as my proof of what we've been through. You heard Angela talk about her family, that legacy. We know that you and your sister have a legacy. I carried it as my proof and my inspiration. I carried it also on January 6th. Some of you may have seen me trapped up in the gallery, up in that balcony on January 6th. And in that moment, all I knew to do as I looked at guns being drawn on the left and a gunshot on the right, was to pray. And I could feel our ancestors in that moment. I could feel slavery. I could feel Jim Crow. I could feel Reconstruction. I could feel women locking arms, marching for the right to vote, and 2 world wars. My proof and my inspiration. The year after that, and I will tell you, I want to publicly thank your sister, because as we led into the anniversary, our vice president invited me into her office to talk. I thought I was going to go and say, hey, look, I was on the VP selection committee. You know, I was the co-chair of the campaign. How can I help you? But instead, she turned it around and said, how can I help you? Here's some advice, Lisa. Don't be a victim, be a witness. When you tell the story, you be a witness to history. And so I got a chance on the anniversary of January 6th to go before my colleagues in the country and talk about remembering what happened, making sure that we never forget, but also that we recommit as a country. And in that moment, that's what I did. What all of these things have taught me is the resilience of us as people, as women. What January 6th, the insurrection, the pandemic taught me, Charles's death taught me, is we are only here for a moment. Only here for a moment. Dianne Feinstein, her legacy, we are it. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she's gone. But in the Senate, we have the ability to make change, to say a Supreme Court needs to be ethical, needs to do what they need to do to represent us, and that we fight for our bodily autonomy. I just had my first grandchild this year, a girl,
Woo.
Lennox.
Woo.
Lennox Elise Bradley. And I will fight for her ability to do with her body what I had the right to do with mine.
Yes.
That's what I'll do in the Senate. That's what we'll do in the Senate. That's what we'll do in the Senate.
Yeah.
And fight for voting rights and democracy. That's why the Senate is so important. It's an opportunity for us to go deeper in the issues, to be one of 100. Thank God for LaFonza Butler. Thank God for LaFonza holding us in the gap. The reality is, everybody's talking about there are no black women in the Senate. Well, now there's one, but there needs to be 2, 3, 4, 5 more. I'm gonna drop the mic on that.
Now that was mic drop if I ever heard one. But you know, I just want to pause for a minute because both of you, it's so powerful. I mean, literally, just it makes me emotional. Because people are questioning why we need diversity. People are questioning, why do we need more women? Why do we need more women of all backgrounds? This is why we need more women and why we need more women of all backgrounds, because we bring our people with us. We bring our experiences with us. We bring our legacy with us. We don't forget who we are representing when we are in these rooms. So this is so powerful, it's so important, and as we're closing out this conversation, I really want to give both of you a chance to talk a little bit about what we need to know about your race, because I'm down to brass tacks now, because we need to get them in the Senate. What do we need to know about your race, and what having the support of Emily's List means to you? You both have reflected on that, so I want to give you a chance to talk about that, but I really also want you to focus on emphasizing how this incredible Emily's List community can help you win, because we need you to win. So I'm going to start with you, Angela.
Thank you so much again. First of all, thank you, Maya, for being a wonderful moderator today. And thank you again to Emily's List for your early support. You endorsed me on the second day of my campaign. I want to thank you so much to Emily's List and to all the supporters here. I want to thank the Congresswoman as well for your leadership. And thank you also for continuing to give us the inspiration we need to go forward. I want to say my 18-year-old daughter, Alex, is a freshman in college, and she has the hope and the expectation that her country will be as good as its promise. We have said to all of our young people, and said especially to our women, that this country belongs to them as well. And as we look out, and the Congresswoman addressed this, at a country now where my daughter can expect to have fewer rights than her mother and grandmother, and that she now must fight the fights that should have been won years ago, this is a moment for all of us to stand up, that my daughter shouldn't have to choose which part of the country to live in based on whether or not she'll be free. This is a really critical moment. I'll tell you, in this race, I have been especially blessed that in our state, the energy is tremendous. The support has been incredible. I've earned the support of our sitting, soon-to-be senior Senator Chris Van Hollen, Congressman Hoyer, Congressman Mfume, Congressman Ivey. We've had so many across the state who have come in to endorse my campaign. You've heard Emily's List and Higher Heights and the Congressional Black Caucus PAC and others, and so we've been so grateful for that. So the race is one that we're going to win. With God's grace and with the help of everyone in this room, we can win it. I will say this, it is not just important that we win. It is important that we win, but I want to say that in this moment, I believe it is also important how we win. In a country, again, the Congresswoman and I are not asking to do anything that we haven't been told is our right as an American, to have the opportunity to step forward and say, we too want to represent our country. I want to represent my state. I want to represent the people in that state, that we have prepared ourselves. I have been the elected prosecutor and have served the families there. I have been the county executive and have given every inch of energy I've had to bring to everyday hardworking people the things that they want to see in their communities, to live in a place that is safe, to be able to afford the prescription drug medications that you need when you are sick. I am speaking not just from my professional experience, but the lived experience, again, as a mother of a teenager and the daughter supporting aging parents. My father, who I told you is brilliant, is now selling used cars. My mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's last year. And anyone who now has these kinds of illnesses understands the cost of prescription drug medications, understands insurances, but we need people in office who understand the cares and concerns of everyday hardworking people. I have done the work to prepare myself, and it is an organization like Emily's List that will give me the opportunity to serve not only my county and my state, but to serve this country. It is unusual for someone like me and the Congresswoman to make it because of the resources that it takes. I'll say this last thing, the opponent in my race is self-funded. He said he's writing himself a check for $50 million. He's already written $10 million into his race. And so it is critically important that, again, it's not just that we win, but how we win. When we have done it all the right way, then we ought to, I believe that it is important to demonstrate to all of our young people who are watching that when we have done it the right way and we step to the line to ask to serve, well, then we'll be given that opportunity. So thank you all so much for all of your support. We look forward to continuing. The race in my state is May 14th, and we're going to win our race, and we're going to serve the people of this state and of this country in a way that's never been seen before. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Again, it has been an honor to be on the stage and in the audience, and even with some of you who have supported us personally and the collective. My race. So I mentioned Sarah McBride, who's in the audience, who is also Emily's List endorsed candidate as well from Delaware, actually running for the House. And I can share this with you because I think it's probably some of the same things that Sarah would say as well, that many people hear Delaware and they think, oh, Delaware, the president's state, it's a blue state. When people ask me who is my biggest opponent right now, because I don't have a primary, I have a Republican and an independent running against me, I say my biggest opponent is apathy. Apathy is my biggest opponent. In Delaware, it is that people won't get the message, won't get incentivized to come out and vote. In the last election, we had a 30% drop in our major city, and we're not the only city that had that. So part of it is how we're communicating with people and making sure that they understand the connection between all the work that we have done, the Biden-Harris administration, and Democrats, and then connect that to the vote. So it's people in Delaware, but it's also people outside of Delaware think it's just a blue state. We are only 3 counties, but it's blue, purple, and red. So all of y'all that come to Rehoboth Beach and Bethany Beach, you tell your neighbor, when you go to the left instead of the right, you are in Trump country. It is literally Confederate flags. We don't even win elections down there. And so being a Republican in Delaware, you will get 40 to 44% of the vote just from being a Republican. My opponent last time had no platform. He had no staff. He had no money until dark money came in at the very end, and he still got 44% of the vote. Do not sleep on Delaware. Yes, thank you. Sarah clapped. And to the extent that we're strong, then that means resources can go to incredible candidates like Tammy Baldwin and Jackie Rosen and others who need it as well. And so I want to say, I'll close with this because LaFonza heard it from my sister about 2 weeks ago at the CBC. There are 4 V's involved. 1, we need your voice. We need you to talk up our races to people and talk to us about things that we can be doing stronger, better, what we need to do. We need your voice. We need votes, of course, but that means everybody across the country. Because when we show up, we win. That's right. I don't know who said that's right, but that's right. When we show up, we win. We need volunteers. And so everybody is feeling really challenged in this moment. My campaign theme is bright hope, because that's what I want us to have. I want us to reach deep and find some bright hope, and then our collective makes us shine brighter, but we've got to get people to feel in it, volunteers. And the last V is money. Now, I know money doesn't start with a V, but if we get it, we'll have victory.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Emily's list. Thank you both. Thank you both.
Please welcome the Governor of New Mexico, Michelle Lujan Grisham.
Wow. If you want to be intimidated, be in my shoes after all of these incredible, powerful women. But I will tell you, I have one takeaway from Senator Butler's speech. I'm old enough to be her mother. I'm going to wear that as a badge of honor, but I've been wrestling with that notion since she said her mother was 70. You do. I couldn't be prouder to be here, and I'm a little embarrassed that I'm your keynote speaker, so no one goes home till 5 o'clock. But let's get started. I want to just say good afternoon to everyone, and again, one more time, thank you so very much for having me. It's an incredible honor to be alongside so many incredible, powerful leaders, trailblazers, groundbreakers, and quite frankly, a lot of my really good dear friends. Now, I don't need to tell you this, but let's repeat it. This, Emily's List, is an extraordinary organization. And since your inception nearly 40 years ago, you have recruited trained, and supported pro-choice champions up and down the ballot. You have helped, and you've heard this already, 20 women, myself included, win gubernatorial races in states across the country. You have sent more than 200 women to Congress, me included, and not a single one of your candidates has ever been stripped of the speaker's gavel after 269 days. Overall, you have helped elect nearly 2,000 women to office, including me. Now, when I ran for governor, I did so with all of your help and support. And as a candidate, I was able to speak up and speak out on issues that had been far too long ignored and denied. And as a governor, I've been able to take action with facts instead of prejudice, and innovation instead of intolerance. From economics to education and from housing to healthcare, we have placed our faith not in divisive rhetoric, but in common sense. And what we have done in my darling little state has worked. Today, New Mexico has a stronger economy than we have seen in decades. And to put that in perspective, New Mexico is one of the poorest states in the country, and we are reporting in the top 5, top 8 states for economic and employment growth in the country, with just 2 million people. Lowest unemployment rate in decades. We're getting it done. We're doing it by building on future-focused industries like advanced manufacturing and clean energy. Largest wind farm in North America is in New Mexico. And California should send me a thank you note, Senator, because we're powering your clean energy out of that little western state. We have made government-offered health care more affordable than ever before, and I'm declaring it today, that New Mexico is going to be the first state to get universal health care right in the US of A. We have made education better and more accessible than any other state, and I'm going to tell you how. Quality child care is now a constitutional right in the state of New Mexico. We are more than 3/4 of the way there, and in short order, New Mexico will be the only state in America to have universal, no-cost child care available to every New Mexico family in the state. I'm off my speech. I'm also going to tell you that New Mexico also has the most robust college program, free college, 2-year, 4-year, part-time, anytime, all the time in the country, and that's cradle to career investment in our families, and I'm very proud of that work. Even before the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, I repealed our state's nearly total criminal ban on abortion. And when thank you. I mean, we all got a knock at that terrible door when he who shall not be named was elected. And I got right to work making sure that New Mexico was going to be a state where women and their families are protected and safe and free. Thank you. So we've done the obvious. We codified abortion rights in state statute. We made sure it's the law of the land, and we have refused to extradite patients and healthcare providers to states like Texas that have criminalized care. And New Mexico's now a beacon of hope, safety, care, and protection around all of those red states moving into the West. We are making it clear to people around the country, if your state has rolled back your rights, attacked your freedoms, and made you feel unsafe in your own community, then you are welcome, protected, and safe in the state of New Mexico. This is the work that matters. Good governance matters. And we're not just seeing it in New Mexico, but in places across the country where pro-choice democratic women are taking the lead, where they are defending the rights and freedoms, implementing vital laws, and protecting, quite frankly, democracy itself. We're seeing it in our newest United States Senator, LaFonza Butler, a powerful champion of women's rights and opportunities, and a tireless advocate for representation in our democracy. Still, the reality is that we need more, much more. We need more pro-choice democratic women, more common sense, hardworking, a little brazen, short governors, senators, House members, and state legislators. We need more candidates who are willing to do the right thing. Because even as pro-choice democratic women are leading the way, our work is, and I have a bad prediction, that it will be under attack for quite some time to come. And if that is not a renewed call to action, I don't know what is. As we all know, across the country, we're seeing politicians use attacks on women and vulnerable communities to appeal to our country's basic impulses and most harmful instincts. And in states around the country, in national elections, and in the halls of Congress, we're seeing a race to the bottom as extremists call for an ever more dangerous and set of more destructive policies. Criminalized abortions, rape victims threatened with jail, women forced to give birth to non-viable fetuses. These aren't hypothetical outcomes in some dystopian future. These proposals that have made their ways to governors' desks, that have been signed into law, that are prepped and ready in states, and quite frankly, right now at the national level. It is clear that we are at an inflection point. At a time when choice itself continues to be at stake, this is a time for choosing. It's a time for us to decide what kind of a nation we want to be, what kind of a people we want to be, whether we want to be guided by dreams and aspirations or by bigotry and fear. We have a choice. We can hand over power to extremists bent on domination and obstruction, or we can put the women they seek to control in charge. We have a choice. Emily's lists make those choices reality. We can't tell women who are raped or who have life-threatening or non-viable pregnancies that their lives simply don't matter. Or we can give them the help and support they deserve. We control those outcomes. We have a choice. We can choke off women's autonomy, women's progress, women's rights, and women's lives. Or, like today, we can be in this room and reaffirm our worth, our agency, and our humanity together. By God, we have a choice. And we frankly know where the American people stand. Wherever they have had the chance to weigh in, they have spoken out overwhelmingly on the side of pro-choice majorities. Not just in blue states like California and Vermont, not just, there's no such thing as that anymore. It's precarious. In every neighborhood, in every small, tiny place in this country, if you ask me, which is why we have to work so hard. But across the country, in places like Montana and Ohio and Kansas and Kentucky, we're seeing what could be. And in every case, in every instance, they have demonstrated what we already know, that this is a nation that will stand up for facts over fiction and unity over division, that they will embrace the future instead of the past. That's why, as Americans, go to the polls in the coming months. We have to give them that chance. We have to show them that choice. And we have to make sure that they know the stakes of these elections. We have to put these powerful candidates right in front of them because the choice is clear. And right now, we have to take this action to places like Virginia, where a pro-choice majority in the state legislature is the only thing standing between an extremist governor and a near total ban on abortion. Right now, we have to get involved in governor's races and state legislative elections across the country because we need pro-choice leaders and pro-choice legislatures in order to protect a woman's right to choose. And we have to stand up for President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. We have to stay united here. This team has relentlessly defended our fundamental rights. And to say no to 4 years of extreme anti-choice judges, they have been there. They've said no to 4 years of an extreme Supreme Court, no to 4 years of anti-choice executive actions all across the country. We made that choice. We have a choice. We have to make sure that we're successful in the 24 elections. Now, here's the thing. You already know it. The choices really start, but that doesn't mean it has to be grim. The choice that we are making in the coming months and years will, in fact, determine our country's course for several decades. And we have the power, to decide what kind of course that is. And if, frankly, when and because we will choose well. This can be the beginning of an age of re-enlightenment and rebirth, where women are treated with the respect that we deserve, when we take our place in leadership offices, when we exercise our rights across the country, and ensure that the injustices of the past stay a thing of the past. We have those choices. But in order to make that a reality, Emily's List, of course, needs your help. We're going to need to put all these pro-choice Democratic women in state legislatures and in Congress. We need more pro-choice women in mayor's offices, more pro-choice women in governor's office, and quite frankly, in judicial chambers. That must happen. In every and any place where decisions impact the welfare, independence, and well-being of women, we must have pro-choice Democratic women in charge. At large and in charge. That mission could not be more important, and it's why I'm so proud, again, to be here today, supporting this tremendous organization. It's why I'm personally so grateful for the work you have already done to promote, recruit, and successfully elect extraordinary candidates who are never afraid to stand up, not just for our basic rights, but to go far beyond those positions. And it's why I have no shame, none, zero, in asking you to do more. I'm asking you to do everything you can for democracy. We are the guardians of this country's lovely experiment. But if we don't keep fighting, donating, working, volunteer, calling, encouraging everyone to run, standing them up, making sure they stay the course, because like every woman you've heard from, I never once thought about running for office. And I'm completely off script, so it's over for whoever's doing the teleprompter. It's just over. It's gone. It's too late now. I worked for governors, 3 of them, for 18 years. The last thing I wanted was to be a governor. And here I am, 2 daughters, a granddaughter, a widow, a caretaker, caregiver. I did all the work that women do with the support of incredible partners, husbands, family members. But those experiences matter. That courage. You come between me and my daughter or my grandchildren, you're going to lose. Right? That attitude, that sheer will and determination is what creates equality. That's it. And that equality isn't just about the issues that we really care deeply about, because it's justice versus injustice if we don't have bodily autonomy. But where women are in leadership positions, the outcomes in those places, states, communities, is nearly universally better. I just want us to remember that. Nearly universally better. It's not just the family issues. It's the tough issues like public safety and economic work. Universally better. These efforts, okay, I'm back on. These efforts are completely worth, no one ever wants to do this for me. In my own state, we have to give you a bonus because I'm never on script. But these are issues, and I'm just preaching to the choir. I just want to say it out loud in front of you one more time. They are worth fighting for. It's why we fight. At the end of the day, it's why you're here at lunch and it's 3 o'clock. And so I just, one more time, want to thank you for all the heavy lifting that frankly, I don't even think we need to ask you to do. You just do it. But I'm going to remind you that we are going to ask you. We're going to ask you to ask more people. Thank you for believing in the same country that I believe in. Thank you for standing up for your own neighborhoods and communities and states and for your country. But thank you in joining Emily's List today for a partnership that's stronger than ever before and for the work that we're going to get accomplished right this minute and for future generations to come. Thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome back Emily's List board member, Maya Harris.
Okay, can we please just give another round of applause to our fabulous governor of New Mexico? As we close out this program, let me just say, I hope that you all are feeling full. Hearts full of excitement, full of resolve, and most importantly, filled with a sense of urgency to do more. As the governor so eloquently illustrated, our country is in peril, the choices are stark, that they are clear, and the promise and all the possibilities are right here in front of us. The work of Emily's List, the women of Emily's List, make me optimistic that we can move through this moment and seize a future that is worthy of the values that make this nation great. But that can only happen with you. Each and every one of you is absolutely critical to reclaiming the best of who we are. Each of you is key to making real the promise of women who can run, win, and change the world. So if you've already made a contribution, we thank you. And if you are a guest who believes in the promise and all of the possibilities of Emily's List, I hope that you will take this moment to invest in this organization. We are so grateful for your support. We thank you. And now let's all go make a difference in 2024 and beyond. Thank you so much for being here.